comment, okay? That we will leave plenty of time for questions. So hang on to your question, write it down, sharpen it, make it short and to the point, so that when you get to a line that we're going to have on opposite sides of the room, and that's where the two mics will be, that's where you ask your question. When you ask your question, do not filibuster, get to the point and ask a question. And don't stand there with a follow-up too. Ask your question, get your answer, and then let the person behind you have their turn. All right? Dave Hopfer, who has been dutifully videotaping our meetings for darn near 4 years now. And he puts them on CCTV. And if people ask questions without a microphone in front of their face, he can't pick up the audio. All right? That's why it's critical for you to be at a microphone when you ask your question. All right? So if you have a burning question, get off your fanny and get to a microphone. All right? So, let's start with Jennifer Gallegos.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, I cut it off. Hold it right up your face.
Okay. Hello. Okay, there we go. My name is Jennifer Gallegos, and I am the founder of Stop Common Core in Oregon. I found out about Common Core about 2 months ago, and I started looking into it, and I didn't like what I saw, and I looked to see if anybody else was doing anything about it in Oregon, and I didn't see anybody, so here I am. So anyway, our goal with our group is to raise awareness and inspire other people to have the courage to stand up for the rights of our children and our nation, because if we don't stop this, we won't have a free nation anymore, and America will disappear. So that's
okay. Very good, and I concur. Good evening. My name is Holly Swanson, and I'm the director of Operation Greenout and We Choose Freedom. I got involved about 20 years ago when I started hearing things about the environment, and trust me, this all links together. I started hearing things about the environment, the spotted owl and wilderness areas, and depending on who you talk to, you would hear a completely different response. And so I decided to start attending environmental conferences, and the more I read, the more concerned I became about this political agenda, not environmental agenda. And so consequently, I wrote the book, Set Up and Sold Out, Find Out What Green Really Means. And there was a definite agenda in education at that time, and now that particular agenda has morphed into education for sustainability. I have a new book out called Training for Treason, the harmful agenda behind education for sustainability. And the bottom line of this agenda is to take over public education and make this curriculum, the Education for Sustainability curriculum, the foundation of all learning and practice in public education, preschool through university, nationwide. In other words, you have this movement, which is a direct offshoot of the green or environmental movement, and it's said to be propelled by this small little group pushing education for sustainability, but that's not the case. It is propelled by the green movement, and the purpose of it is to use public education to politically indoctrinate our children to eat green, live green, worship green, and vote green. In other words, indoctrinate our children, take over public education, and basically use it, just like they do in communist countries, to advance a specific political agenda on our innocent children. How that relates directly to Common Core, what's wrong with Common Core? Common Core nationalizes the curriculum, opens the door further for political indoctrination of our children. The U.S. Department of Education has said that they will do, and relating to the Obama administration, they will do everything in their power to advance education for sustainability. Now, if they're going to do everything in their power to advance education for sustainability, then my response to that is we must do everything in our power to stop it. Right now. Absolutely. Thank you. and these directly relate because of the nationalization of public education. It is unconstitutional, it's too costly, it's an experiment on our children, it is opening the door again to indoctrination, and simply, absolutely, positively, in concurrence, we must get this out of our schools as well. Thank you very, very much.
I got asked to do this because A, I'm already in the group, and B, I'm the only one that's an educator. Coming from a perspective of teaching, it's kind of difficult because I used to teach social studies, that's history. I got out of it a long time ago because A, they were teaching the wrong things in the wrong way. They made history boring, just dates, names, places, and no reasons why, no effects, no how does this relate to what we're doing today. I became a language arts teacher, and I discovered it followed me. One thing, they justify a lot of this. First of all, kids move. Wouldn't it be nice if a kid moved from school A to school D and got the same stuff and wasn't behind when they picked it up? That was their first justification. Gee, if we all had the same curriculum, wouldn't it be nice? And then I know my kid is not slipping through the cracks. Another thing is all these businesses are saying, we have kids that cannot read and cannot work and cannot agree and cannot problem solve. Well, they're missing the big point that a lot of these kids learn those skills at home. That's where they're supposed to do it. No, they're wanting schools to do it. And so our kids have to do things like problem solve and then come to a consensus. In other words, everybody's going to agree before we have the right answer, whether the answer is right or not. And I've discovered that that just creates a bunch of yes men. We are creating robots with this program. Now, granted, the program has been going on since about 1880. Okay? 1870, 1880, we bought the Prussian military system as our education system. We follow orders, and the teachers are the colonels, and they bark orders, and the kids do it, and they march in line. They do not learn in different ways. The teacher is always right. The teacher will give you the answers. The teacher will make sure you have the right answers, and you'll march on. The kids forgot how to figure it out for themselves and think for themselves, not in consensus. Now, I will tell you, education is like this. It is always reinventing the wheel. When I started in school, there was the new math. How many of you dealt with the new math? Well, guess what? There's a new wave of it. It just is new. And it's a way for the parents to not be able to help their kids at home. They no longer send textbooks home. They no longer send worksheets home and ask the kids to work on them. The way they recently justify it, textbooks are too costly. They'll get banged up. We don't need them. We can learn everything at school. And so parents either A, don't care, B, don't get to learn it themselves and figure out what on earth is being taught, and C, we keep what's being taught private. It's making the teachers into doctors and lawyers that are experts and will just leave them to do it. How many of you here graduated from high school? You already have a better education than your kids. Okay? So why can't you help your kids at home? Well, we're trying to separate the family from the child. You aren't raising your kids, the government is. That's the end goal. Now, as a teacher, they want to have a good way to assess how good I am as a teacher. I don't know how good I am as a teacher. Some days I blow it. I know, ooh, I could have solved that problem a lot better. Oh, this kid's a grump right now. Go off into a corner, calm down. When you come back, then I'll be able to talk to you. I do those things because I'm a human. I don't want to be paid based on how my kids, who are 13 and 14, score. Because I know there's days when they don't like me very much, and they'll just say, well, Mrs. Lowell's being paid that way. F, 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 F. All the answers happen to be F. Mrs. Lowell loses her job because she's being assessed by these test scores. And the kid keeps going moved on. Now, I'm a language arts teacher. That means I read writing, speaking. I read what they write. I read with them. I'm busy in what you and I took as English. Okay? If I gave you an 8th grade boy who does not capitalize the word I and does not put periods, What grade do you think he should be in? First. It's a first grade standard. Why is he in 8th grade? Because our society believes, oh, we need to advance them. What we're doing is training our kids that, gee, we care more about your self-esteem and making you feel good and keeping you with your group than holding you to a standard. Why do we write these standards if we don't hold them to them? If we require you to be able to capitalize and punctuate a period or a question mark at the end of a sentence, maybe we should keep you there until you do it. Either you haven't learned it or you just don't give a rip, because I know I'll be in 9th grade next year. If you want to change things, that's how you can do it. Now, this is Lisa preaching. There was no child left behind, and now there's Common Core. The government is pulling us further away from our education system. Yes, they say, oh, it was developed by locals, and then the states bought in, and now it's national. But they're right, it is connected to sustainability. It is just the same methods they use for Agenda 21 to make it so that the government is in charge of all of these things. Now, as a teacher, I have not been trained in Common Core yet. You think you're ignorant about it? I am too. I have not been trained in how it works. I have not been trained in how to help the kids. I have not been trained, and I think we will remain in ignorance as the teachers, because we are those robots. We are the ones that bark the orders, and unfortunately, we follow orders from the generals above. And I'm here hoping to learn some myself. I have to implement this, and I don't know how. But I do know that the universities are kowtowing to it. We were just given these 2 days ago. This is the Common Core Clarifying Explanations for Teachers and Students, English Language Learners, Grade 7. It was printed by a company called Align, Assess, and Achieve. Achieve. The one that scares me is assess. We spend 17%, under No Child Left Behind, 17% of our school year is spent testing, filling in bubbles. What could we do with 17% more of learning, of reading, of practicing, of experimenting, of studying? 17% more. Instead, we spend 17% right now assessing. Common Core threatens to be higher.
Okay,
How do you want to do this?
hang on a second. Dan, can you take one of these mics? And is Tom still here? Tom, can you take the other one? And the ladies up front can use the small mic. When you ask your question, again, address it to a person up here and try to keep it short to the point. It is. It is. Now, see, we put a microphone in your face and everybody gets shy, huh?
I have a question. How far down the pike are we? Is there any way to turn back? Has the state of Oregon adopted this? And can we fight this at like a school board level, or like what's the best way to attack this? Because it seems like it just kind of hit us all of a sudden.
No, you go ahead now.
It's being transitioned right now, and by 2014, though we passed the transition point by 2015, it will be completely implemented. And as for fighting it at a local level, I think that's what we have to do, because otherwise we won't have a voice in the legislature if we don't get a big enough group of people rising up against this.
Just real quickly as we're going down the line here, I think one of the things that's so very important is to understand that realistically, even if it was billed as a voluntary program, Common Core is unconstitutional. Basically, the education of our children is supposed to be left up to the states and the parents. And personally, I think the place to start is with the governor that signed on to this, and he took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I think we should hold him to it.
There you go.
I know that some of you have heard Glenn Beck's commentary on this. Common Core should not be mixed up with C-scope. Texas had Common Core. They were looking at it, and they freaked. They had all 4 pieces. There's math, there's language arts, which is reading and writing, speaking and listening, science, and social studies. They freaked over what was going on in science and social studies, so they kicked it out. And they grabbed the next best thing that the companies were providing, which is C-Scope. It's different and it's more scary. Oregon has only adopted 2 portions, the math and the language arts portion.
And the science.
Oh, have they?
Next generation science.
Next generation science.
Piloting it.
They're doing something called STEM. It's science, technology, engineering, and math. They're the ones that are pushing this. They're whole companies developing this. They're trying to be the next textbook designers, basically, only they're not designing textbooks, they're designing all education. Right now, Oregon is still cherry-picking pieces, but we're still going forward. In education, I know the next big thing, the pendulum just swings. We went from whole language to phonics and whole language to phonics. It's natural. This is Oregon, this is life in education. They have to justify their existence by making us jump through new hoops. I have never taught the same thing twice in the same way, ever, and I've been teaching for 16 years now. It's just the nature of the beast. But this is more expensive. Right now, the tests we're giving right now, the Oregon state standards developed by Oregon, cost about $64 million to develop every year. Every year, $64 million goes to your education budget devoted to OAKS testing, Oregon Academic Knowledge and Skills. That's conducting the tests, training the teachers, and on and on and on. I have no idea how much Common Core is going to cost.
Before we go on here, we had a request from people in the back that they can't see you all. So if you would mind standing up.
Just a quick comment, if I can jump in on the are we supposed to all stand up all at the time?
Maybe just for speaking.
Just when we're speaking, we gotta know the rules, guys.
There you go.
Okay, the other thing is, what can we do about it? Well, one of the things that we can do is insist, due to the fact that these are experimental. You know, No Child Left Behind isn't working very well. Okay, Common Core is another experimental program. Education for Sustainability, there's some specific points about that hopefully we'll get into. We don't want our children to be guinea pigs or experiment on them. So what we need to do is go to our political leaders and insist upon a return to a quality basic education, so that our children and our schools are not way down in the world on academic achievement. And there is no, basically, consensus, I hate that word, but on the idea that Common Core is going to benefit our children at all. What we need to do is get organized, work together, and again, insist on a return to a quality basic education, so there is time to teach our children what they need to know. And I just want to say one other thing very, very quickly, and that is, what is the goal? What is, where does this come from, where it's going, is really important. And one of the goals of Education for Sustainability that we need to understand, because it does relate to Common Core and why this nationalization of our public education system. One of the goals, in fact, the stated goal of Education for Sustainability by the president of Second Nature, which is the leading national and international organization in the Education for Sustainability movement, said this, and this is their goal for Education for Sustainability. Humans are guided by a whole set of beliefs and values, and those come from culture, from religion, from social, economic, and political structure. We need to change all of those. So the idea is to hijack public education, politicize the curriculum, and use our public education system to indoctrinate our children as the means to change America's culture, American society, our economic system, our religious base that this nation was founded upon, and our form of government. And that's why it's important to understand why you just hear it all the time on college campuses, why they're talking about the Marxist professors and why Education for Sustainability mirrors Green Party goals and communism. We need to understand the bigger picture. Our children are being targeted. These programs are designed to gain access to our our children, to use the classroom to indoctrinate our children. It is one of the most important issues of our time. If we do not stop the political indoctrination of our children, everything else we do will be for naught. We will lose our children, we will lose our nation. Thank you.
One other thing I do want to say with regards to what we can do at a local level is go to your local town halls. I've been to 2 in my area, and none of the elected representatives there knew what Common Core was. So if we can raise awareness at a very local level, that will help as well. And any comment you make about it, the other people around you are going to hear, and they're going to wonder, and then you can direct them to the different websites that are out there.
What's your
Absolutely.
Facebook?